You ever notice that every time the Democrats have a crisis, the fix they propose always seems to attack our pillars of Western culture? Why do Democrats seem obsessed with tearing down things like family and religion? These are good things, right? Because it's all part of what they call the Great Reset. Folks, the left can't stand conservatives. They hate what we stand for. They hate that this country is built on objective truths. They hate that your big R, God-given rights exist. But you already know that. The answer is, why do they hate these things? And it's found in what they call the Great Reset. It's because you are in their way. So what's the Great Reset? The World Economic Forum is a globalist organization of self-professed elites. The founder and chairman is Klaus Schwab, who literally wrote the book COVID-19, The Great Reset, and made it a focal point of his summit in Switzerland in 2020. If you want to read up on the Great Reset, there's an entire page on their website dedicated to how they want to start over with year zero. But listen, don't take my word for it. We always bring receipts here. Here's Schwab singing the praises of Communist President Xi Jinping of China at his summit last year.
Polarization has created the age of disagreement, which threatens to derail humanity. Now, we must come together to ensure that we capture the moment and move into the age of collaboration to build a better world. Mr. President, I believe this is the best time to reset our policies and to work jointly for a peaceful and prosperous world.
So what does this have to do with Democrats? Because in order to reset the world, liberals must first get rid of the old one. And that's why they constantly attack religion and family. The real power struggle here, folks, is between objective truths and the absolute power of the state. The family and religion are competition for the state and the left. And there's nothing they hate more than competition and a meritocracy. Let's start with religion. For centuries, but especially in America, religion's been the bedrock of society. Here's Jordan Peterson explaining exactly that to Joe Rogan.
If categories dissolve, especially fundamental ones, the culture is dissolving because the culture is a structure of category. Roughly speaking, we have a bedrock of agreement. That's the Bible, by the way. It's that the Bible is the precondition for the manifestation of truth, which makes it way more true than just true. It's a whole different kind of truth.
In short, we get our objective truths from religion. That's competition for the state, so Democrats have to attack it at every opportunity. Again, they want to wipe out the competition.
Christians, of all people, are supposed to be particularly worried about their neighbors. And this is also a really critical situation where if you're not vaccinated, you may be the one spreading this virus.
A subset of Christians who support Trump, who believe that God had a very specific call on his life. It's breeding this degree of fanaticism, this degree of religious fanaticism that I think could have real danger.
Because let's face it, Republicans, this is not really the face that best reflects your party's values. This is.
Remember back in 2012 when Democrats took a vote to reintroduce the word God in the language of their platform? It barely passed. Listen to the boos.
The motion is adopted, and the platform has been amended as shown on the screen. Thank you very much.
Then there's the nuclear family. We all think it's a good thing, right? With religion? No, not for the left. This is a big hurdle for the Marxists to install the Great Reset. They got to get past that. Your kids? Well, they don't belong to you. They belong to the state, according to these Marxists. Here are just a couple of headlines to prove it. See at the Washington Post and CNN. An unlikely cause of our bitterness? The nuclear family. These are real headlines. They can't stand this. It's in their way. You can see these headlines right there. The left is dedicated to using every possible means to tear our nuclear family apart. To do this, they create a divide between the children and their old and outdated parents, so that the kids will voluntarily dissociate with their family values while the state's in complete control of their education. They hate competition. And once you see this, and once you recognize it, you'll see it everywhere. You can't unsee it. It's in the BLM movement, the LGBTQ activist movement, education, and politics.
Progress. It's the reason that your grandparents' views are better not spoken in public.
People who have been cast adrift by the breakdown of the nuclear family, they've lost touch with one or both parents, and they're sort of floating, and they come together and say, you know, we'll be a family together.
A school in New York City defending itself after telling students not to say words like mom and dad. Apparently they think it could be offensive. Instead of mom and dad, say grown-ups, folks, or family.
Yeah, I stopped the bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
The Chicago Teachers Union saying out loud, by the way, that your kids belong to them. We see it. It's right there. They're telling us who they are. Believe them. And here's Education Secretary Miguel Cardona echoing the World Economic Forum's talking points just days ago.
We can't lose this moment. This chance for a reset in education by going back to the same pre-pandemic strategies that didn't address inequities.
Listen, I get it. There are skeptics who could possibly doubt what I'm telling you is true, despite the evidence being everywhere. So how do I know we're right here? I just listen to the left, especially when they tell us, as I just said, exactly what they're doing and what they're going to do. They are who we think they are. Like using the pandemic to take your freedoms so that the state can be in charge of giving those said freedoms back to you.
And we have a very narrow window to tie reopening policy to vaccination status. Because otherwise, if everything is reopened, then what's the carrot going to be? How are we going to incentivize people to actually get the vaccine? So that's why I think the CDC and the Biden administration needs to come out a lot bolder and say, if you're vaccinated, you can do all these things. Here are all these freedoms that you have.
You catch it? Did you catch it? She says the state grants our freedoms, not by God or anything like that. This is a state thing, is it? But listen, it's not all bad news. Here's one of the so-called elites themselves at the World Economic Forum a couple of months ago, admitting that most people just don't trust them.
The good news is the elite across the world trust each other more and more, so we can come together and design and do beautiful things together. The bad news is that in every single country they were polling, the majority of people trusted that elite less.
Folks, you know how to tell when conservatives are right over the target with the Great Reset, Year Zero, this war on family and religion? Well, the left, they send out their army of, fake fact checkers to call everyone conspiracy theorists. This is from Reuters just days ago. Look at the quote. Despite repeated misinformation being shared online about the Great Reset, this sustainability plan proposed by the World Economic Forum is not a secret plot to end private property or create a totalitarian state. Every single time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.